Time now for our GMA Pride Month Spotlight, where we honor the power, pain, and pride of LGBTQ plus stories that changed history. This week, we're stepping into the ballroom, a place where culture, creativity, and truth were born long before the world was ready to listen. But behind the glitter, music, and spotlight, there were secrets, deep, heartbreaking secrets. These 12 black superstars broke barriers, topped charts, won awards, and inspired generations. Yet they were forced to hide one fundamental part of who they were. Not because they lacked courage, but because fame, fear, racism, and society's judgment made honesty dangerous. Some lived in quiet code. Some expressed their truth only through art. And some took their secret to the grave. Today, we finally tell their stories. Raw, real, unfiltered, because their voices deserve to be heard fully. If you believe hidden truths deserve the spotlight, hit like, subscribe, and let's begin. Sammy Davis Jr., the showman with a secret, one Sammy Davis Jr. Hi there, sailor. New in town? Sammy Davis Jr. wasn't just a star. He was the star. A singer, dancer, actor, comedian, and iconic member of the Rat Pack. He dominated stages across America and shattered racial barriers wherever he went. He dated Hollywood beauties and even married Swedish actress May Britt, a relationship so controversial at the time that it sparked national outrage. He was also linked to actress Kim Novak, until studio executives and even the mob allegedly stepped in to shut it down. But what the world didn't see was the other side of Sammy, the one whispered about in Hollywood circles. Some friends and biographers claimed he also had relationships with men, a truth he could never safely admit. In an era where being gay could destroy your career, especially for a black man, Sammy chose survival over honesty. His struggle didn't end there. After a near-fatal car accident, Sammy converted to Judaism, searching for identity and peace. Yet faith may have deepened the internal conflict he carried. He passed in 1990, leaving behind a legacy of courage, talent, and complexity. Sammy broke barriers for black entertainers, while quietly fighting a battle of his own. Little Richard, the king of rock who couldn't be himself. Little Richard didn't just perform, he exploded onto the stage. With glittering outfits, wild piano slams, and a voice that could shake the heavens, he helped invent rock and roll itself. Tutti Frutti, Long Tall Sally, Good Golly, Miss Molly, hits that changed music forever. But behind the spotlight lived a soul at war with itself. As a teenager, he was kicked out of his home for being gay. On stage, he embraced flamboyance and became an unspoken symbol of queerness long before the world had the words. Offstage, he wrestled with faith and identity. One day he said, "I've been gay all my life." Another day, he called it a sin. In 2012, he declared himself omnisexual, attracted to all genders. His identity swung like a pendulum between pride and shame. The church told him to hide. The world told him to tone it down, but his spirit refused. When he died in 2020, a documentary finally told the truth. Little Richard was not just the king of rock. He was the blueprint for queer expression in music. He didn't just break rules. He was the rule book. Donny Hathaway, the voice of soul with a silent heartache. Donny Hathaway's voice could break you and heal you in the same song. A Song for You, This Christmas, and his legendary duets with Roberta Flack cemented him as one of soul music's greatest treasures. But behind the beauty was pain. Deep, complicated pain. He battled severe mental illness, diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. He believed people were after him. He felt trapped inside his own mind. But there was another secret, one he never spoke publicly. According to those close to him, Donny may have been gay or bisexual. Married with 2 daughters, he played the role the world expected. But reports say he may have lived a closeted life, burdened by fear, shame, and the intense homophobia of the 1970s music industry. Imagine carrying genius and a secret you're terrified to reveal. Plays and articles now hint at this hidden part of his identity, not to expose him, but to understand him. He died tragically in 1979 at just 33, after falling from a hotel window. To this day, people debate whether it was suicide. One thing is certain: Donny Hathaway was brilliant, loving, and possibly broken by a world that wouldn't let him be whole. Luther Vandross, The Love Song. Legend who couldn't love. Out loud. When Luther Vandross sang, the world melted. His silky voice defined romance. Never too much. Dance with my father. Here and now. Every lyric felt like a confession of the heart. But the one heart he couldn't fully share was his own. For decades, fans wondered about his sexuality. He never married. He never spoke about relationships. And yet, those closest to him, like Patti LaBelle, later confirmed he was gay. So why didn't he come out? Because the stakes were higher for him than almost anyone. He had millions of devoted female fans. He feared losing them. But even more, he feared hurting his mother, the woman he loved most. He chose silence over freedom, privacy over authenticity. After his death in 2005, friends finally spoke his truth. In 2025, the documentary Luther never too much honored that truth, but with respect. It didn't exploit him. It completed him. Luther didn't need to shout his identity to change the world. His music reached every soul, and maybe that was his way of loving out loud. Jermaine Stewart, the pop star who lived his truth quietly. Jermaine Stewart lit up the 1980s with his smooth voice, bold fashion, and unforgettable hit, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off. He wasn't just talented, he was different. In an era when black male artists were expected to be hypermasculine, Jermaine showed up in colorful outfits, soft movements, and feminine energy, and didn't apologize for it. He never shouted, I'm gay, but he didn't need to. Everyone in the music world knew. He lived authentically, even when it cost him. Record labels hesitated to fully support him. Fans didn't always understand him, but he kept singing, kept dancing, kept shining. In a time when being openly gay could end your career, Jermaine quietly became a symbol of courage. He didn't hide, but he also didn't let the media define him. Sadly, his life was cut short. In 1997, he died at just 39 from AIDS-related liver cancer. The media barely mentioned it. The world moved on, but those who knew him said he was pure love, light, and energy until the very end. Jermaine Stewart wasn't just a pop star. He was proof that you can be true to yourself, even when the world isn't ready. Ethel Waters, the legend who loved in the shadows. Ethel Waters was one of the first black superstars in America, a powerhouse singer and groundbreaking actress who paved the way for generations. She broke racial barriers on Broadway, in Hollywood, and on radio. But behind the fame, she carried a deeply hidden truth. In the 1920s, she lived with a dancer named Ethel Williams. They were so close that people called them the two Ethels. Many historians believe they were romantic partners. Long before the world had language for it, Ethel Waters was loving another woman. But she also married men, possibly for survival. Being a queer black woman in early 1900s America was dangerous. If the public knew, she could lose everything, or worse. Later in life, she became deeply religious and joined evangelist Billy Graham's ministry. She never spoke of her past with women again. Some say it was guilt, others say it was protection. Still, the queer community never forgot her. Unity She was a symbol of resilience, talent, and silent strength. Ethel Waters didn't just make history. She lived at the intersection of race, gender, and hidden love. And even when she had to hide, her legacy spoke louder than any secret. Alvin Ailey, the dance genius who choreographed his pain. Alvin Ailey didn't just create dances, he created a movement. As the founder of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, he revolutionized modern dance and brought Black stories to the global stage. His performances were emotional, spiritual, and deeply human. But his most powerful choreography came from a place he could never speak aloud: his sexuality. Ailey was gay, but he lived in an era when being openly gay, especially as a Black man, could destroy your life. So he stayed silent and let his art speak. In his pieces, you can see love between men, longing, religion, masculinity, and pain hidden beneath beauty. He carried more than one burden. Along with racism and homophobia, he struggled with bipolar disorder. The pressure was unbearable. When the AIDS crisis hit the 1980s, it devastated the artistic community. Ailey contracted HIV, but begged his doctor to list blood disorder on his death certificate to avoid shame. He died in 1989, but his legacy lives in every dancer who steps on stage with courage. Alvin Ailey's body was quiet. His art screamed the truth. Paul Winfield, the Oscar nominee who loved in silence. Paul Winfield was one of Hollywood's most respected actors, powerful, elegant, and unforgettable. He made history as the first Black man nominated for a Best Actor Oscar for his role in Sounder, 1972, and his talent lit up film, television, and stage. But while the world applauded his performances, very few knew the truth behind the curtain. Paul Winfield was a gay man who had to hide in plain sight. For nearly 30 years, he was in a committed relationship with architect Charles Gillen Jr., a love story deeper and longer than most Hollywood marriages, but they couldn't live openly. At that time, a Black gay actor risked everything: roles, reputation, safety. Even earlier in life, when living with co-star Cicely Tyson, people assumed they were romantically involved. In reality, she was protecting him. He trusted her enough to tell her he was gay, and she shielded him from gossip and hate. When Charles died in 2002, Paul was devastated. 2 years later, Paul passed away as well. They are buried side by side, an unspoken monument to a love the world was never allowed to see. Paul Winfield wasn't just a great actor. He was a man who chose love, even in the shadows. Bayard Rustin, the civil rights hero. They tried to erase Bayard Rustin, organized the 1963 March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered "I Have a Dream." He was the mastermind behind one of the most important events in American history. So why don't most people know his name? Because Bayard Rustin was openly gay, and even within the civil rights movement, that made him a target. He was brilliant, strategic, and fearless. But some leaders feared his sexuality would be used to discredit the movement. They pushed him into the background, even when he was the one doing the work. Rustin was arrested not for protesting, but simply for being gay. Still, he never stopped fighting. In his later years, he spoke out for LGBTQ+ rights, insisting that justice must apply to everyone. Unable to marry his partner, Walter Nagel, Rustin did something extraordinary. In 1982, he legally adopted him just so they could have rights as a couple. That was the only option gay couples had. He died in 1987. In 2013, President Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The world finally said his name. Bayard Rustin wasn't just a hero. He was proof that equality means nothing unless it includes all of us. James Baldwin, the writer who turned truth into fire. James Baldwin didn't just write books, he wrote revolution. As one of the most important voices of the 20th century, He exposed the realities of race, sexuality, and identity with fearless honesty. He was a black man. He was gay, and he refused to apologize for either. While many hid their sexuality to survive, Baldwin put it on the page. His groundbreaking novel, Giovanni's Room, 1956, told the story of a man in love with another man, something nearly unthinkable for a black writer in that era. Publishers tried to stop him. He said writing anything less would be a lie. Baldwin hated labels, but believed in truth. Love is love, he said, long before it became a slogan. He understood that being both black and gay gave him a unique view of the world, an outsider's clarity. He used that clarity to challenge America's conscience, calling out hypocrisy, injustice, and silence. Though private about his personal relationships, his work spoke for every person who ever felt unseen. When he died in 1987, he left behind more than books. He left a roadmap for courage. James Baldwin didn't just tell stories. He told our stories before we were ready to hear them. Willi Ninja, the godfather of Vogue who taught the world to strike a pose. Willi Ninja was more than a dancer. He was the heartbeat of ballroom culture. Known as the godfather of voguing, he turned sharp poses and fluid motion into an art form that influenced music, fashion, and pop culture forever. He exploded into the mainstream through the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, captivating viewers with his elegance, confidence, and power. In ballroom, he was openly gay and deeply respected. He mentored countless queer Black and Latino youth, giving them a chosen family when the world rejected them. Outside the ballroom, he broke into high fashion, modeling, walking runways, and even training supermodels for designers like Jean-Paul Gaultier and Thierry Mugler. Long before Madonna's Vogue, Willi was the original. But he was more than movement. He was a protector. During the AIDS crisis, he used his platform to educate and save lives when no one else would. In 2006, he died at just 45 from AIDS-related heart failure. The world lost a legend, but his influence lives in every dance battle, every runway walk, every moment of unapologetic queer expression. Willi Ninja didn't follow culture. He created it. Howard Rollins, the leading man. Hollywood wouldn't let be himself. Howard Rollins had the kind of talent that commanded attention. From his breakout role in Ragtime to his powerful performance in the Heat of the Night, he became one of the most respected black actors of the 1980s and 90s. On screen, he was strong, intense, and charismatic. Off-screen, he carried a secret that could have ended his career. He was gay. Hollywood was unforgiving. A black gay actor playing leading roles. Unthinkable. So Howard stayed silent. He avoided interviews about his personal life and found refuge in private spaces, gay clubs and friendships with other closeted black actors like Paul Winfield and Raymond St. Jacques. But the pressure of hiding took a toll. He struggled with addiction, was written off his hit TV show, and his career began to unravel. In the mid-90s, he was diagnosed with AIDS-related lymphoma. Like many men of his era, he kept it secret to avoid stigma. He died in 1996 at just 46 years old. Only after his death did the world begin to understand who he truly was. Howard Rollins had the talent to be a legend. But Hollywood never gave him permission to be fully human. Which of these stories surprised you the most? Was it the superstar who lit up the stage but hid his heart? The activist who changed the world but was erased from history? Or the dancer who spoke truth through movement when words were too dangerous? These legends were more than entertainers. They were survivors. They lived in a time when being black was risky and being gay was unforgivable. Yet they still rose, still created, still changed culture forever. Their stories remind us that talent can be celebrated while truth is silenced. and that success doesn't always mean freedom. But today, we have the power to do what the world never gave them, to see them fully. So let's honor them, not just for what they did, but for who they were. Let's create a world where no one has to hide to be great. If these stories moved you, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more untold truths that matter.